I feel like coming in as a newbie, we are on the brink of something awesome here.
Yep.
And that's like, there's an energy here of like trying to make Wichita amazing.
Welcome to the Wichita Live podcast. My name is Landon Huselig, and I'm host of the Wichita Live podcast and curator of the Wichita Live ICT Instagram. Our guest today is Jenelle Robinson. Jenelle is relatively new to the Wichita area. Her and her family were relocated here, and she's looking to make her mark on the community with personal branding photography. She is extremely talented and wants to foster a community of photographers who build each other up. Enjoy my conversation with Jenelle Robinson. All right, Jenelle, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing well. Can you just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
I am Jenelle Robinson, and I am a photographer that is locally based in Wichita, and I specialize in personalized branding photography.
Awesome. And can you just tell them a little bit about just your interaction with Wichita? You're not from here, so just tell them a little bit about your story and where you're from.
Yeah, I was born and raised in California, and then I met a boy, and he whisked me off to Japan for 3 years, and we got orders here. I've been here since May, and I absolutely love it.
Awesome. Cool. How was Japan?
So awesome. We are planning to go back Christmas of 2020 because we love it so much.
That's awesome. And you also have a daughter, correct?
Yes, I have a 15-month-old daughter, and she is so much fun, and she's walking around and running around, and hard to chase now. I miss the crawling and in mobile days, but this is fun too.
Yeah, for sure. I bet that keeps you busy.
Oh, yeah.
So photography, how did you get into photography?
Actually, after my daughter was born, I didn't have any creative outlet. I used to do a lot of fashion illustration and sewing, but when you have a newborn that doesn't like to be put down, you don't have much time to do watercolor or sewing. So my husband had me pick up my camera, and I have not put it down since.
Cool. You said fashion illustration and sewing. So have you always done that kind of stuff, or is that just something you picked up along the way?
I started when I was young, and then I went to school for it.
Oh, perfect.
And then I realized that I was not going to cut it in the cutthroat business of fashion, and so I moved to social science. So I have my major in social science to help other people.
Awesome. Where did you go to school at?
The University of Maryland University College. It is accredited, even though it doesn't sound like it.
Hey, that's cool. That's cool. So you said you're originally from California, though, right?
Yes.
So
I was born and raised in San Diego, and then I lived 5 years in Sacramento, and that's where I met my husband.
Very cool. Okay. And so photography, you got your first camera. Did you know that you would make this a career, or was it kind of a hobby to start out?
No, it was just to get good pictures of my daughter, and then one day I found out that my best friend was not coming to Wichita through the Air Force, and I thought, there has to be a reason. I need a sign of why I'm in Wichita. And the next day I met 2 very famous photographers and said, well, I guess this is it. And so I just hit the pavement running, and I spend every waking moment that I'm not with my daughter and my husband doing photography, learning business. My poor daughter spends half of her day listening to podcasts on Alexa. One day she'll be a great CEO.
How did you learn photography, I guess? I'm not a photographer, so I take a couple pictures with my iPhone, and that's about it. So how did you get into that, or how did you learn?
YouTube. I took a class from Click It Up a Notch, and she does an intro to photography, and she was having a sale for like $100 for a 4-week course, and that really changed the game for me. And then I have a friend here she was a food photographer, and now she runs a retreat for photographers to learn storytelling. And she has helped me immensely, and just YouTubes and again podcasts and everything, and anytime I can pick up my camera I do, and so it's just a lot of practice.
Very cool. What kind of camera do you have?
I have a Canon T7i now.
Okay.
Trying to book clients so that I can get a mirrorless in a couple months. But they are like $2,000. So
Wow. Yeah,
I need to book a few clients before
I was going to say,
make that leap.
You could say just about any combination of letters and numbers, and I'd probably
Yeah.
just nod my head and say, that's cool, because I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know cameras can get very pricey very quickly.
Yes. So this is kind of introductory, and some photographers kind of make fun of it. But I think that if you're charging correctly and you're doing good work with it, then it doesn't matter as much as the lenses and the expertise.
Sure. There was an Instagram meetup a couple weekends ago with.
That looked so much fun.
Yeah, so there was, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 or so photographers, and then me and my wife, and so they were all talking similar stuff, and I think a lot of them started out with it was like a $400 or $500 camera,
Yeah.
and then a lot of them are still on that, but they're working their way up, and again, it's more of the expertise, the editing, and the lenses more than anything.
You need to know how to work it in order to use a lower grade camera, even though it's still pretty great.
Right. You just need to start learning and get going. What do you primarily, so you mentioned personal branding, but do you primarily like taking, or I guess, what other kind of pictures have you taken? Do you take landscapes, more of people, things?
I'm a people person.
Okay.
I love, and one of the reasons I do personal branding here is because there are so many couple photographers here or family photographers.
Yeah, there are.
So I kind of started my own niche so that I can kind of scale back, because there are so many great photographers here that do couples like K and B, and then we were talking about Hound and
Honey. Yep.
Honey is beautiful, and there's a couple more, and then Boudoir is really big here, and there's really great people that do that. Like Christina Patton has a really great art for Boudoir, and I love and I love capturing love. So that would probably be my favorite, but I like personal brand because it's lifestyle and it helps people in business do better business, and
Sure.
I love helping people. So
Sure. Can you just go in a little bit more about the personal branding, what that means, and kind of how that could benefit people?
Okay. I love personal branding because it is lifestyle, it is business, it is headshots. It's really capturing the person who is selling whatever product or service in their everyday life and doing work, so people can connect to you on your social media or on your websites, and can kind of see a little bit more than just what you offer, because people no longer buy what you have or what product or service you have. They purchase your why.
Right, absolutely.
So you want to showcase your why in the best way. Also, there's a statistic that entrepreneurs that are on social media spend a quarter of their business trying to get that perfect shot, trying to get that caption. And personal brand photography, you spend a few hours with me and you have 60, 90 photos. So for a quarter, you're set up and you don't have to waste every single day. You can plan them out and plan out the captions and when you want that to release. So it's really a time saver, because think of the amount of money you could make saving a week of time.
Oh, absolutely.
Actually working on your business.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of batching too. You're getting all that done at the same time, and then
Yeah.
that's really cool. So do you meet them somewhere then? Are you meeting at coffee shops? Are you meeting at their office? Or what does that look like for the personal branding photos?
I meet anywhere. I like to do pre-clientele talk because I want to learn about the person as much as possible so I can plan out the shoot. I also have a branding questionnaire that I send people, so I can really get a feel of what their brand is, who they are, and what they want to showcase for their clientele.
Cool. Awesome. And then just to get a little more into kind of your style. So you do personal branding, but is there, I don't know, again, I'm a very novice when it comes to photography, but is there a specific kind of style? Do you shoot, is it like automatic, manual with your camera, that kind of stuff?
I do manual. I do it all manual.
I think that's what a lot of the good photographers do.
Most people should be. If you're not, again, click it up a notch. I'm not sponsored by her, but I should be. Has a really great class, and it really helps. And with her class, there's a Facebook group, and you can post in there. Even though I'm done with the class, you can post in there and get constructive criticism by other people, and it is so helpful. I still post in there to see what I could improve, because if you're a photographer and you think you've learned everything, it's time to quit.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's the same for a lot of things. Like if you think you know it all, there's
You're
probably a
done.
big thing you're missing.
Maybe it's time to switch what you're doing.
For sure. So do you have any advice for people that are wanting to start photography, or like, for example, Wichita is relatively saturated with like the couple photography. So for people finding their niche, do you have any advice for anything like that?
I started shooting everything and anything. I did families, I did boudoir, I did couples. But couples were my favorite because I have a little bit of a sailor's mouth and I am highly inappropriate. So sometimes being around kids is not the best option for me, even though I have a beautiful daughter. She has not started swearing yet. So I like working with couples, but I also have a heart for business and entrepreneurs. So that's why I chose personal branding to be my niche.
Sure.
But just shoot everything and everything, anything and everything. And I would also recommend people shooting for free and doing model calls instead of charging very cheaply, because that takes away from other photographers in your area.
Sure.
When you can't compete with your prices, because there are some photographers that are way too cheap for me to be able to leave my house and my husband, or sometimes people charge less than it would cost for me to get a babysitter for the 2 hours, because I normally get to a shoot a half an hour early to set things up and make sure I know what locations to shoot at.
Right.
So I'm out of my house for 3 hours. If I'm paying a babysitter $15, that's $45.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's
Plus taxes.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So did you, growing up or even in college, did you take a lot of photos? Or, because I know you kind of just got started the last year or so with actual, like, real quote-unquote photography. What was your experience before that?
Not a lot. So when I was younger, like 10, I got a camera, but I wanted to take pictures of landscapes and not people, because I wanted to remember the places I had been. It was only when I got older that I realized that it's the people that make trips the best. It's not where you go, it's who you're with. So I've kind of switched from that, but 10-year-old me did not understand that. And she just wanted to take pictures of, we have a family cabin out in California that we go camping and hiking. And so I would take pictures of the lakes and the rivers and when we went on hikes. And I remember my aunt being like, well, don't you want pictures of people? And I was like, well, I see you guys all the time. But now, I'm 29 and I lived in Japan, and now I live here and all my family's in California, and I wish I had more pictures of them because I miss them so much.
Definitely. Did you take a lot of pictures in Japan though?
Not as many as I should, and I didn't pick up my real camera. Like, it's mostly just on my phone, and I regret that.
Sure.
Because Okinawa is really hot, but it's gorgeous and has like crystal blue waters and cliffs, and oh my gosh, it's one of the most beautiful places in the whole world. And I wish that I would have captured it better.
So what is the photographer community like in Wichita that you've experienced so far?
Oh my gosh, so kind. I have not been able to make it to a Tuesdays Together, which is a creative entrepreneur group, and there's different chapters all over, but I posted in there and I was like, if anybody wants to meet during the week, because normally when they have their Tuesdays Together meeting, my husband's gone and my daughter has a very strict bedtime for all of our sanities. So I'm not able to go, but I met a couple of guys that are in the photography group, and they were so helpful, and they looked at my website and they told me which photos I should just delete because I only had them because I felt sentimental, because it was like a picture of my mom and my dad, but my mom's face was a little funny in it, and like he's like, just get rid of it. And I was like, oh, but for me it was a cute picture because I know that look that she's giving him, but he's like, from an outsider's point of view, she's just looking at him funny, and I was like, that makes
Understandable.
sense. But every photographer I have met has been so kind and so helpful, and just wants the best of the photography community in Wichita to get better and better and elevate. So
that's awesome.
I've had a really good experience here.
Very cool. Do you have a vision for what you see that community could become in Wichita, or anything like that? What else you could add or bring to that community? I
actually started a community with the Hive Wichita, which is a female-centered co-working space, and it actually is very empowering. And so I started a photo community out of there, and I'm doing styled shoots, meetups. We have other photographers coming in for lectures and panels.
Awesome.
So that's what I'm trying to contribute, because I thought there's not, besides Tuesdays Together, there wasn't really a photography community that I knew about. So I decided to create my own, because I could literally talk about photography for days and days and days. And I just wanted to meet other people that felt the same and the more that you know and the more that you meet other people, like say I meet a newborn photographer, she could probably teach me stuff about
absolutely.
capturing, or birth photographers about capturing that moment and candid moments that you can really feel the emotion, even though I would never do birth photography because it is not my thing. And that's okay because there's wonderful birth photographers here. And we're actually working with the Cottage Studio for our photo community to get a discount there.
Okay.
To promote that studio because it's such a beautiful natural light home studio. So I really want to elevate the photography here and then also support other local businesses within the community.
That's really cool. I know we talked about it a little bit before, and you talked about it a little bit right there, but a couple things that you want for that community to be able to do is help people hone skills, kind of teach pricing, because that's something that I would have no idea how much to charge for a session or different types of photography, and then marketing. So can you talk a little bit about those couple things or what else you would want people to learn?
We are also having a panel about pricing because people price too low. Sometimes people get into photography or the outsiders that are not photographers think that if you charge $50 a session, say, that's $50 an hour. And it is not that because if you are a legal business for photographers, you pay 30% of that in taxes. Okay. So say $50, take 15, so you're making $35. And then that's for that hour of shooting plus the hours that it takes editing. And for me, if I'm shooting for an hour, for each hour I spend 5 to 6 hours editing. Right. One session. So $50 or take home $35 for 6 hours is not
a great hourly rate. Not a
great hourly rate, and people think that it's just clicking a button, and it's so much more because I have to learn composition, I have to learn lighting, I have to learn, I have to go search for locations that people want to shoot at, and then even if it's a family or a couple portrait, I still have to do my research and send a questionnaire or meet with the couple or family so that I can kind of get their dynamics so I know how to prompt them. Right. So that I can get the best pictures of them. Sure. If that makes sense. So
yeah, definitely.
I literally spend every hour doing so much work trying to do my best. Yeah. So it's not just the hour you see me clicking a button, quote unquote.
Right. So do you, a lot of the editing and stuff, do you do a lot of that at home or because you're probably with your daughter a lot of the time, so or do you make it out to the coffee shops or where do you like to edit at?
I either edit at my house when my daughter is napping or when my husband's home. We have a rule that every Saturday I get 6 hours to just leave the house and go to work because he has 40 hours plus. Right. Because he's a pilot, so he's
cool.
He comes home next week for a 3-week stint in Vegas. It's so rough to be him. But I get 6 hours every Saturday to go do work. And so I come to the library or I go work at the Hive. And the Hive has a great setup for Photoshop and Adobe Lightroom and all of that stuff. So sometimes I like to go there to work too.
Cool. Yeah, and we'll definitely link up like the studio that you named. I'll have to get that name from you. Just so
Studios.
Yeah, definitely. So people can have that resource as well as the Hive and some of that stuff. So
because the Cottage Studio isn't just even a studio for photography, but they have conferences there for doulas, and you can host a shower or a party there. It's such a cool spot. So.
Very cool. That's awesome. And so just Wichita in general, what has you and your husband's view of Wichita been as an outsider? A lot of the people we've had on so far for the podcast have grown up here or have lived here for at least a few years. So what's your experience
been? I got a lot of crap for moving here because my whole family's in California, and it's kind of hard to top California. Even Texas. I'm talking to you guys. But I don't get to choose where I live, but I get to choose my attitude. So I came here being like, well, what does Wichita have for me? And I went and found the coffee shops. I went and found Exploration Place and the art museum. And I feel like coming in as a newbie, we are on the brink of something awesome here. Yep. And that's like, there's an energy here of like trying to make Wichita amazing. And like, there's a lot of local artists, and I love the workroom in Bungalow 26. And I drink probably way too much Reverie coffee.
It's really good.
It's so good. It's my favorite. But really, Wichita is what you make it. So I could definitely just stay on the east side and go to Starbucks and go to Target and just not really get into depth here. And there's a lot of people that I know that aren't necessarily happy here, but I love it here, and I feel like we're again on the brink of something, and I'm so excited to see what Wichita has for the next couple of years.
That's really cool that you think that as somebody that's only been here a year or almost a year, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. We've kind of felt that. That's kind of why we started Wichita Life to begin with. We felt the pride, kind of the pride swelling in Wichita, and we had moved away and came back and had missed that, like with Wichita and the people. So it's cool as somebody that isn't from around here that you feel that too, that we're so close to being right there. Like there's so much growing, and
I'm excited for 2020 when all of those new buildings come up, and I think it's a ball field that's coming in 2020.
New baseball field for sure.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, and it's that's pretty big time. We've had teams in the past and affiliate teams for major league teams, but it'll be a AAA team. It's like next to the majors. It's pretty cool. So I'm really excited for that.
And who doesn't love going to a baseball game in summer?
Seriously.
Yeah.
It really doesn't get much better than that, especially right by the river. I think that's just so cool. So.
And I am from San Diego, so they have the Petco Park right downtown, and it's so fun because we go get Mexican food before, and we go get a couple beers, and then we go to the game. And
absolutely.
You can go out afterwards, and I feel like having it downtown is going to be awesome because it's going to also bring a lot more revenue to downtown.
Right. And side note, I just saw an article in the Wichita Eagle, I believe, and it was about people walking more. And so I'm sure being from San Diego and then living in Japan,
there's a lot of walking.
I was going to say I've never been there, but I can imagine
there's never
both
parking
of those.
Anywhere.
And so I think that's something, if Wichita can adapt to that and get used to walking a little bit. From the baseball field, Delano's right there, downtown's not too far. Everything's right there within walking distance. It could be really cool before and after games, people going out and having fun, and I don't know. It's right
Ladies,
there.
There's these flats that you can put, and they bunch up, and you can put them in your purse, and then put them on when you're done with your heels. Just side note, I don't know where they are, but they're pretty handy.
For sure. Cool. So we're going to switch gear a little bit, or I guess, do you have any other notes on photography you want to talk about right now?
No, that's
cool.
Good.
All right,
covered most of it.
Awesome. What is something you often recommend to people? Books, podcasts, movies. You mentioned podcasts a couple times.
Oh, I love. I am currently addicted to Jenna Kutcher's Gold Digger podcast.
Okay.
It's a business podcast. I obviously listen to yours.
Oh, yes, thank you.
And I tell people about it all the time because I feel like the more that people know about you, the more we can promote local businesses.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that.
And I don't know. My husband thinks that there's a recession coming, but I feel like if we continually shop locally, Wichita isn't going to be hit as badly if we keep the money in our community. There's like a bunch of statistics that are like that go over like how much money actually stays in your city when you purchase locally.
Right.
So people like you are doing wonders, even though you may not understand that, but you are really going to help this community keep the money, which is really awesome. I'm currently reading Get Rich Lucky Bee. You can finish that sentence yourself. And I am obsessed with that book. And it's all about mindset and kind of getting rid of all of your thoughts on money so that you can receive more money.
Okay.
It's worked pretty well for me. I also just read the book The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes.
I have heard of that one.
It is so good, and it's just so positive, and I definitely want to be her best friend. So, Shonda, if you're listening, look me up, girl. We'll get coffee at Reverie, my treat. I can tell you all about, I can give you definite notes on Grey's Anatomy and good ideas of, shows. So, but right now I'm mostly listening to Gold Digger podcast, and then I just found out Photobomb, which is two guys, and they are hilarious, and they talk about photography as well.
Very cool. Alrighty, yeah, I will link all of those up too, so people can check those out and give them a try.
There's a couple more that are local through the Hive, and one is Ceiling Breakers, and it's a podcast about females in Wichita that are
very cool.
breaking the ceiling. That's really cool. And I love that podcast too.
Okay, I'll have to hit them up as well. Maybe get them on as guests. That'd be really cool.
It's Renee Duxler.
Okay, I've heard of her.
And then Stacy, and I can't remember her last name, but she owns the Hopping Gnome.
Oh,
with her
very
husband.
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So they
Very
are
awesome.
pretty kick-ass women.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely have to talk to them. I'm sure they could teach me a thing or two about
Yeah.
podcasting too. So I'm always open to suggestions. So do you have a favorite failure in any aspect of your life?
So I couldn't think of any, really, because for me, failure is just quitting.
Sure.
Everything else is just a mistake you learn from.
Mm-hmm.
But then I remembered, so when I was a fashion major, I also took auto mechanics because I love cars, and I didn't know if I wanted to be an auto mechanic or a fashion designer.
Uh-huh.
And I remember redoing somebody's brakes, and I forgot to put the brake pads on.
Mm.
And I remember him going out to test his car,
Oh, no.
and then him rolling back in with the window down yelling, I can't stop my car.
That's
probably
scary.
my
Yeah.
favorite failure because it was really funny.
That is pretty funny. Funny now.
Yeah,
I'm sure it
it
wasn't super funny at the time. But
It was funny. I wasn't driving. I wasn't
okay,
in the
that's
car.
fair.
We slowed him down. That
All
was
right.
probably my favorite.
That's funny. What is your definition of success?
Being able to do what you love and having time to do other things that you love.
Mm-hmm.
So I love photography, and I could do photography all day, but it also affords me time to spend time with my daughter and my husband when he's home.
Awesome. Do you have a life motto that you live by, or what is some of the best advice you've received?
I also used to listen to Being Boss podcast.
Okay.
And one of their biggest sayings is do the work.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter how many dreams you have, you just have to do the work. And it doesn't have to be perfect, you just need to get it done and then progress.
Cool. I like that a lot. Is there a habit that you've developed over the past few years that has most improved your life?
My husband and I have a rule that 1 hour every day or more, we put down our phones and we put them in a separate room when we spend time together.
I like that.
So that we actually are with each other instead of just in our phones all day.
Nice. I like that a lot. What is your favorite part of Wichita so far? So you've mentioned Reverie, so I'm sure that's up there.
Yeah.
But are there any hidden gems, or just in general, what's your favorite part of Wichita?
I've mentioned a couple of them. I love the workroom, and I love that they promote local artists. And it's, since I'm from California, I really love their new anti-gun violence mural,
Yeah.
which might lose me some clients, but it's so beautiful. And I just, I'm very anti-gun because I had an ex that used a gun when we were breaking up to try to keep me with him. So
That's
I'm very
understandable, yeah.
anti-gun,
Pretty good
but I
reason.
like to tell that story because some people just think that I'm a liberal that doesn't like guns, and I used to really believe in them, and then I just don't want any other woman to be fearful of staying
Right.
with somebody just because they own a gun and they're afraid for their
That's
life.
very reasonable. Yeah.
So, I love the workroom. Warra's Bakery. I took you there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, we
it's
love
so
that place.
good, and they
Yeah.
have churros that are filled with cinnamon.
Yeah, those are incredible.
And they are so amazing. My dad is visiting, and I just took my dad and my stepmom, but they were out of churros, and I was so bummed out. But I think he got enough sweets. He doesn't need another
place is
churro.
awesome.
That's probably, being from San Diego, finding a Mexican bakery was, I was like, okay, I can live here forever.
On that note, do you have a favorite Mexican place in town?
I do not yet.
Okay.
My neighbors made tamales for Santa Maria Day.
Okay.
I don't know. They had a bunch of people over, and they had Mexican hot chocolate and something called pancho, which is like an apple cider with like pineapple in it. And then they had tamales and conchas.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Sounds
those
really
are
good.
really good. And I'm kind of sucking up to them, so they'll make more tamales.
Well, hopefully they listen to this. So.
Yes.
Is there anything you wish Wichita had that it doesn't, that maybe Japan or San Diego or somewhere else had?
Trader Joe's.
My wife has been saying that
Trader
too.
Joe's.
I've never actually been to a Trader Joe's. So my wife's sister and her husband live up in Minneapolis. And so whenever they come back, we have them bring us stuff from Trader Joe's. But I've never actually been to one. So
they are heaven. Also, alcohol in grocery stores would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because I like grocery shopping for my meals and getting my wine for my meal at the same store.
Yeah, when we lived in Texas, that was a change for us.
Yes.
Living in Kansas our whole life and then moving to Texas, it was a lot easier because you could get whatever you wanted wherever pretty much.
Well,
so.
plus then if we get a Trader Joe's that has alcohol, we can get 2 buck chuck. And that wine is so good.
I've heard good things, but again, I've
Yes.
never had it. So
Kansas City, Missouri has a Trader
Okay.
Joe's, and they sell
not too
alcohol
far.
there. I made my husband go to 2 different Trader Joe's in Kansas City.
that's really funny.
That's
That's awesome.
He's a good guy.
We were talking about it because, I mean, we don't live downtown, but from what we know, there's not like a grocery store, like a downtown grocery store really. So it's like
Yeah.
Trader Joe's downtown, Wichita could be perfect.
So there's a Facebook group that I just found that
Oh, yeah?
says "Bring Trader Joe's to downtown Wichita."
Oh.
So go find that and like it.
Everybody go
and,
like it.
Let's everybody write Trader Joe's to come here, because people are like, "Oh, we have Whole Foods," and I was like, "I don't have Whole Foods money though."
That's a good point.
It's a little bit pricier.
Yeah.
Plus, I grew up with Trader Joe's
Yeah.
in California.
It's probably hard to go
my favorite
from
place.
having it to not having it.
Yes.
Just a couple more. What does Wichita mean to you?
There is such a pride in Wichita that I did not expect. And it's like a little pocket of unique here, I feel like. I did not expect so much art and creativity here. And I just pride in where you live. Because the Wichita flag, I didn't know the Wichita flag wasn't always popular.
Oh,
But
yeah, it
people
wasn't popular.
love it, and I love that they love it. Like, yeah, own where you live.
Awesome. Yeah, it kind of just, I feel like, to me, it felt like it popped up while I was in high school, kind of about 10 years ago or so. It just kind of showed up, and it had always been the flag, but then you started to see it everywhere. You saw it in front of people's houses, on their license plates, everywhere. But,
Murals
yeah,
everywhere. I love it.
T-shirts. It's pretty cool, though, yeah. It is a really cool flag, too.
So I
Pretty
love
unique.
that. For me, it's like pride in where you live,
Mm-hmm.
and that means a lot to me. Because if you don't care about where you live, then you're not going to care to make it better.
Right. Absolutely. Do you have any final comments or calls of action to our community, or specifically the photographer community, if that's what you want to?
Come check us out at the Hive. It's a really great place and community, and if you are a business person, and it's catered to women, but we let men join. It does take a special kind of man to be like, yes. But I have not met a woman that I don't like there, and I am constantly, every time I go, in awe of these women that run their own businesses, and they're so kind, and they take time out of their day to help you, and they're determined, and it's so great. And every time I leave there, I just feel energized and like, I can do anything.
Very cool.
And that's what I want for the photo community too, is I just want to elevate the photo community, whether it's getting newbies to join or getting veteran photographers to come speak to us, because if it keeps elevating, then it's just better and better for the photographers that already exist.
Right. Helps everybody out. Where can people find you on social media?
I am at Jenellerobinsonphotography _ on Instagram, and then Jenelle Robinson Photography on Facebook.
Perfect. And I will link both of those so people can find you. I
Yes.
really appreciate you meeting with me.
All right, thank you.
This was fun. Thanks.
Yes.
Thank you to everyone who stuck it out and listened to this episode of the Wichita Live podcast. Thanks to the local Wichita band, The Caves, for use of their song. You can find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at wichitalifeict.com. If you have any comments or recommendations for our podcast, feel free to contact us at wichitalifeict@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, hasta luego.